Drive them, the more they pull. So ask intelligently. Believe you can get what you want like a child, not an adult. Adults are too skeptical. So the formula really reads, make plans like an adult and believe in them like a child. See, the big question is not what am I getting paid here? The big question is what am I becoming here? Because true happiness is not contained in what you get. Happiness is contained in what you become.
If we really want to thrive, yes, it is about vision, it is about team, but it is about the tools, and it is about building the habits every single day to do not just your best, but to do what others aren't willing to do. When you build those habits over and over and over and over again, it gives you such a unique form of confidence. When you build those habits daily, one of the 2 quotes that was in my room almost all my life growing up was, somewhere he is out there training while I am not, and when we meet, he will win. And it sounds really negative, but I loved it because I wanted to be that one that was training while other people weren't. Most of the best in the world in business or in sports, they have also coaches on the side and mentors on the side. Why? Because they want that 1% of 1% of 1% to get better. But so many times we feel like, well, we don't really need it. Man, I think it is one of the most vital things to our life, to your company, for us as a ministry. We have so many pastors and wise counsel that we go to.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. In a world filled with endless opportunities, why would 2 men who have built 13 multi-million-dollar businesses altruistically invest 5 hours per day to teach you the best practice business systems and moves that you can use? Because they believe in you, and they have a lot of time on their hands. They started from the bottom. Now they're here. It's the Thrivetime show starring the former U.S. Small Business Administration's Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark, and the entrepreneur trapped inside an optometrist's body, Dr. Robert Zillner. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here.
Started from the bottom, now we're at the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. The seeds bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the CNC up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the.
Well, folks, on today's show, I met a wonderful young lady who painted an incredible painting. And I thought to myself, this is an incredible painting. It was a painting or a portrait on a canvas of America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani. And it really was a spectacular piece. And I thought to myself, who painted that? And then one of our clients was connected to this person, and I'll let her kind of share that connection. And long story short, the artwork is amazing, and I thought, wow, we need to get her on today's show. Cristen, welcome on to the Thrivetime show. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
I'm very excited to have you on the show. And for people that want to look you up, do you have a website where people can go to find your work?
I do not have a website. I do have an Instagram called Cristen Ashley Fine Art, and it's spelled CristenAshley.
Okay,
and
so
Fine Art.
Fine art. Okay, let me pull that up real quick here. Somebody is going to be Google searching that with me right now. So I'm going right now to Google. I'm putting it up on the screen. Give me 1 second here, putting it in. Okay, somebody else out there is having the same thought. We're going to find you. Okay, you're on Instagram. Cristen Ashley Fine Art on Instagram. Is that you?
Yep, that is me.
So how long have you been painting? Tell me about your painting and how long you've been doing it.
So I'm self-taught and I've been drawing and painting since before I have memories of it. My aunt has a sketchbook from whenever I was 2. And so my dad said I used to draw on everything and like draw on the toilet seat or draw like on the blinds and then switch it and draw another picture like on the other side. And so it's just something that I've always done.
Now, what I want to drill into it on today's show is how to turn your passion into profits. There's so many people out there that have a skill. They're a singer, they're a doctor, they're a lawyer. There's something they're into. They love law. There's somebody who's interested in health. They're interested in fitness or fashion. But
Yeah.
you've really focused and been intentional about turning your love for art into an actual business or into an income stream. How did you first go about turning your passion into profits? Or when did maybe you first start selling artwork?
So I started selling artwork, I would say maybe 10 years ago. And I started off small commissions, like doing chalkboards, and then, somebody would want a portrait of their dog or something like that. And then my skill would grow as people would commission me. But I think my biggest thing is having a purpose behind the art. And so like the Eric Trump piece that you have, or the Trump piece, doing the fight, fight, fight. Oh, I think, yeah, that's like right on the top. And there's Alina Haba there. I just started doing portraits then. And I think that's from like 2 years ago. And so like the next piece is a retirement piece for an officer. And so I really like to have meaning behind my art. And then you can see the howitzer, the Marine piece down here.
Yeah.
And so my grandpa, he's 89. He is a Vietnam vet. And so he told me kind of what to put together for that piece. But I like to tell people that I came up with it by myself. So they look at me like, sure you did.
Now, you painted a really nice kind of a Clark Griswold slash Clay Clark combination there for us that we now have in the lake cabin. And so for anybody out there that wants to see your artwork, again, it's on display there at our lake cabin. I just want to get your thoughts on this. Like, when did you recognize that, wow, this could be a career or at least an income stream that you could scale out to a certain extent?
I think whenever I realized like my skill set is, I don't want to say better, but different from a lot of artists. Like whenever you hear somebody is an artist, you often see like abstract work or, pieces that are surreal, not so much like realism. But I really like the realism art. I want my portraits to look as real as possible. So I feel like that kind of sets me apart from other artists, and people seek me out because of that.
Now, as far as if somebody wants to hire you, if someone's watching this show right now and they say, wow, I've got Christmas coming up or birthday, maybe a big retirement party, somebody they know just is coming back from the military, someone they know is retiring as a firefighter, someone out there is someone out there, maybe they hit an achievement, maybe their team won a game. How does somebody go about reaching out to you and talking to you about potentially commissioning you to do some art for them?
I'm kind of old school on the communication. So if they just want to call me or text me, I like to communicate that way. I feel like it's a lot faster than, going through the email, and I can get more of an idea of what would be personal to that piece that way.
So what is the phone number people should call if they want to call you?
It's 405-658-9716.
Okay, 405, I'm reading that back to you, 405-658-9716. That's the number to call, 405-658-9716. I'll put a link for your Instagram there. What are some things that you've been working on the past couple of years that you've been most excited about? Like when you think about the work you've been doing, is there any project in particular that stands out to you as going, yes, that was exciting?
I would say the Trump one was awesome. The one for Rudy Giuliani was really cool. I did one for Post Malone, and I think that's on my Instagram. There's a portrait of him smoking a cigarette. I did a lot just recently. I'm trying to think. The one for you is really fun. I felt like I got to be creative for that one.
Now, my wife, we're not going to let her see this particular episode, so she won't see it. Maybe she'll see it, but I don't think she'll.
Okay, I was trying to be careful.
No, we won't. We
I'll
won't. I'm just
see
telling
that.
the listeners out there. But I've reached out to you to do a project or a portrait for my wife. I've reached out to you to do a fun portrait for my business partner, Dr. Zellner. I found you to be very reasonable to work with and reasonable in how you do it and how you price. But walk the listeners through step 1, step 2, step 3. If somebody out there is watching this show and they want to hire you to do an upcoming project.
So if you just want to call me and then send me ideas of what you want. So kind of like you did, you sent me several pictures. And then I like to do a digital mock-up of what we're going to do first. And then once you approve it, then I'll start painting it on canvas. And it's not going to be exactly like it because I am human and I'm not AI, even though I've been accused of it. And then I start painting, and usually it takes sometimes I'll surprise myself and be done in like 4 days, but usually it's less than 2 weeks for me to get a painting out.
And if once you finish the painting, do you ship it to people? Do they come pick it up, or how does somebody receive the project?
So if you are local, I would suggest I'll just meet you for you to pick it up. But I do ship. I've shipped out of the country quite a bit, actually.
How long do you think the process would take from the time that somebody reaches out to you to the time they get a finished piece?
Usually before 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes like within 4 days.
I'm just absolutely blown away with the quality of the work you do, the passion you put into it, the professionalism with which you handle the entire process. I've been very impressed. And so I reached out to you to do a couple more projects for me. And the way that I am, because of my kind of eclectic artistic brain, I'm sure that I'll be continuing to hire you as long as you'll take money from me. So I appreciate you.
Well,
Your work is awesome. Oh,
I will never say no. Thank you.
I have a final question for you. For anybody out there watching today's show who's an aspiring artist or musician, they're out there trying to eventually monetize or feed their family by selling their art, whether it be music, whether it be paintings, that kind of thing. What would be the final advice you'd give anybody out there that maybe has great artwork, but they've never gone about selling it?
My advice would be don't be fearful. There's been a lot of times where people are like, oh, you're the starving artist, or what do you do for a real job? And then I get to, pull up my Instagram and show them the pictures and they're like, oh. So just keep pursuing your passion and don't listen to other people, because if I can do it, you can do it.
Thank you so much for carving out time for me today. I encourage everybody, I'll put a link to your Instagram. Let me put it up one more time on the screen just so people can see it if they maybe help sometimes just to see that. The Instagram there again is Instagram. Sure. You look for Cristen Ashley Fine Art. I'll put a link on the show notes. I'll also put a link to your phone number. That's 405-658-9716. Cristen, thank you so much for your time and your energy. Yeah, and I look forward to hiring you for more great projects.
Thank you, Clay. I appreciate you. I'll be in touch soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, as an entrepreneur, I started my first business when I was 15 years old, maybe 14, 15, but I started out selling gum to people in school because I discovered that people in school wanted gum. People were asking, do you have gum? And the school banned gum. The principal announced, ladies and gentlemen, we're no longer allowing gum in the middle school. And I'm thinking, wow, if the gum is being banned and everybody that I know wants gum, gum's probably at a premium. So I took the money that I had saved working for my uncle and I went to Sam's Club and I bought as much gum as I possibly could buy. And I thought I could buy gum and maybe buy gum for a nickel per piece of gum. And I bet you I could sell that thing for 25 cents. And then I loaded up my locker with other stuff kids are wanting, Mountain Dew. You can't have Mountain Dew. So I'm going to sell Mountain Dew. So I'm pretty soon I became the Mountain Dew / gum guy. And then over time, I saved up more money. And then the school came out with T-shirts they sold for the wrestling team and the swim team. And the shirts were kind of non-controversial and not exciting for the student body. So I made my own shirts with my own controversial slogans printed on the shirts. And I bought a T-shirt press and I saved up that money. And then I started a DJ entertainment company because I discovered that brides and grooms and people attending school dances wanted to have entertainment that was great. It was extraordinary because if the entertainment's bad, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on catering, people are going to leave that wedding early. It doesn't matter how much time was spent promoting the prom, people are going to leave if the DJ bombs. So I started a DJ company. Then I moved from there into real estate, into photography, into dentistry, and the legal profession, and then franchising, and all. But at the end of the day, the process continues to be the same. Step one, you find a problem that the market has, that humans have. Step two, you try to solve the problem with a solution that you think works. Step three, once you solve that problem, you try to sell the solution. And then step four is you nail it and scale it. So what I'm going to focus on today's show is the rhythm of entrepreneurship, which goes like this. There's 4 steps to it. You define what you think's going to work. You act, you measure, you refine. Everybody, you define, you act, you measure, you refine. Everybody, you define, you act, you measure, you refine. And you don't get emotional about it. You make your first prototype and it's not really great. No one likes it. And then you think, you define what you think is going to work. Then you act, you measure, you ask the customer, do you like it? You see, did we sell any of these things? And you define, you act, you measure, you refine, and you keep doing it. And eventually you have a product that 2 people want. And then 10 people want it. And then pretty soon, hundreds of people want it. And on today's show, we're interviewing an entrepreneur who has defined what he thought would work. He acted, he measured, he refined it. He's always refining. He's always making it better. But he's gotten to a point where he is now building an empire selling this bolt-on bedroom. If you're listening out there today and you want a bolt-on bedroom, you want to add on to your space and place, but you don't want to pull a permit, this product may just be what you're looking for. So I'm hoping to teach you a little bit about entrepreneurship today. And I'm hoping that also we may be able to provide a solution for anybody out there that's looking for a bolt-on bedroom. And so without any further ado, the founder of Bunky Life, David Frazier. Welcome on to the Thrivetime Show. How are you, sir?
Doing awesome, Clay. Thanks for having me.
Brother, I got to ask you here, when you defined that you thought, man, I think people would want to buy this Bunky Life product. Do you remember where you were when you had that thought?
That's a great question. Well, it was, I actually remember exactly where I was. I was in my backyard because I built my own little bunkie for my own family and then started renting it out on Airbnb. And then the next natural thing is, hey, make me a bunkie. So it just became this really quick bit of customer feedback. They're kind of renting it, but then they said, hey, can you make one for my backyard?
So you had this, did you write it down? Did you write down the idea in like a notebook, or did you immediately take action? Because I find that I take an idea that comes to me, I find a problem, I find a solution, and I like to put it in my notebook and then come back to it later. I kind of marinate on it and kind of do a lot of revisions on my notebook before I start building with physical stuff. Did you do that, or did you go out in there and start building right away? Or tell us that process.
No, I started selling right away. So what I did was I sold the product first, and then I made the product a little bit. I mean, I had the template in my backyard, so it's something. The very first pill I made, I swallowed myself. But beyond that, I was always selling them to pay for the materials to build the next one. So it was very much like sell it first was the thinking.
So, and again, I think this is important for people because a lot of people they think entrepreneurship, I have to have every problem solved before I try to sell it. And I always tell people, you got to rush to revenue. You've got to find a way to get out there and to get that rude feedback. And so the first bunkylife.com product that you built, what was it? How big was it? What was the size of it?
I'll go to the gallery there, Clay.
Gallery?
Right?
Yep.
One of the very first ones we did, this is what I sold to my mom. Scroll down a bit. Now she built it up on on like a stilts, basically. Keep going there. I think it's Patrol. And so see the middle one there? That's like a little tree house, basically. That was one of the first ones we ever did. Yeah.
Really? Okay, so that was the first one. And how did you go from that first Bunky product to your second? How did you move to your second house?
So I think I was advertising on like the Canadian version of Craigslist. Hey, would you want this? And I had a couple pictures of mine and a couple pictures of my mom's. And then I got a few people to bite that way. And then from there, the real like launch was that winter. I said, let's try to give one of these away on the internet. Let's see if people would be so excited that they'll share it with their friends. They'll get people excited about it with a potential to win. So we gave one away January of 2018. And that was the real like, okay, we're open for business. We're launching this. This is a thing now. So that was the real 0 to 1 moment for us.
Now, what's interesting about our audience here is I find that most of our listeners to our show, these are a lot of our listeners are, they own a business or they want to. That's kind of the ilk that we have that listens to our show. When you moved from, you defined what you thought would work, and then you acted and you measured, what kind of changes did you have to make on that second iteration or that second version or version 2.0, version 3.0? What kind of changes did you have to make before it became this product that people love so much?
So I think a big part of it was just, listening to what they had to say and then just giving them more of what they liked. So in our case, that little bunkie there that my mom built, it was a very small loft. It was hard to crawl. You had to crawl in. So everyone wanted a bigger loft, and the windows were kind of small, so we made them bigger. And then the footprint wasn't as big as it could be, so we went right to the maximum before you start needing a permit. So it's kind of like give people more what they wanted. It wasn't a dramatic change, but it was just we're finding all the individual things that made it suck and making it suck a little less. And then, of course, just maximizing the things they liked.
And when did you feel like, wow, this is something that's going to scale? I mean, when was that moment when you had, or maybe you haven't had that thought yet, but when did you think, wow, this is really moving? I mean, this isn't something I'm testing out. This isn't something I'm going to see if it works. I mean, this is my full-time thing. When did that happen?
So we did that contest where we gave one away, and that was kind of year one. Then we did it again, and we got triple the results. And that was when I realized, okay, we've got like a good exponential curve going here. I think this could really work. So every year I would double or triple down on what I put into it. And then I would try to get at least double or triple out what I got out of it. And so that happened for 3-4 years. We were doubling every year basically. And that was when I realized, okay, this is a product that, previously it was just like a local thing. Like you go to the local shop and you buy your local shed from some guy named Chuck at his lot. I'm realizing, okay, we could package this, we can ship this. This could be something that could really reach a larger, wider geographical area and audience.
Right now, our listeners, a lot of our listeners are hearing this and they're going, wow, maybe this is something that's a good fit for my family. Maybe not, So walk us through this, because on part 2 of today's show, we're going to do an interview with Damon John, the founder of FUBU, and he's going to tell us how he built his multi-million-dollar business, how he built his empire there. Most people know him from the Shark Tank, and we're going to get into that. But what I love about your story is that you're building it. We're watching it happen right now. We're participating in this. If our listeners want to team up with you, celebrate you, buy something from you, how do they go about doing that? What does that process look like?
So I think the first step would be, figure out if you're the right fit for what we're doing. We have a little quiz. It's called, Are You Ready for the Bunkie Life? And it's 10 questions, yes or no. Takes about 3 minutes, not even. And then you can figure out, do you have enough knowledge? Do you have the actual space? Do you have the budget? Do you have all the things that you're going to need to pull this off? Do you have the skill? So you're going to figure that out. And then we're going to be able to have a conversation, which one's right for you? How do we get it to you? All these fun things like that. And the way you can do that is go to bunkielife.com/clay, CLAY. Okay. And then we'll know that you came from the Clay Clark show.
bunkielife.com/clay, bunkielife.com/clay. And so again, if I go there, what kind of money are we talking about, to spend if I'm thinking about getting involved with you? What kind of money is it going to cost to buy one of these?
Probably about 5 to 13K.
And do you spend money on, do you have like a financing service available? I mean, have you built that relationship where if somebody's listening and they want to finance it?
If you want to finance the bunkie, turn into monthly payments, then we have partnerships that can make that happen for you. Absolutely.
So what would you say to the entrepreneur out there that's, on the fence about taking their idea and turning it into into a business or to a product? What would you say to anybody out there that's having those entrepreneur dreams, those visions? What would you say to anybody who's, on the fence of thinking about starting that new business?
I would ask them, what is the quickest thing you could do today to figure out if this works or not? Rather than having this dream that you spread it over 9 years and never actually pull it to the market, get it in front of a person with a checkbook in hand or cash in hand and figure out how you can get to a yes or a solid no as quickly as possible. Rather than like having this thing that you kind of like drag out, I would just how do you get it sold as quickly as possible?
That's powerful. Brother, I really do appreciate you carving out time for us. And again, folks, that's bunkielife.com. I'll put a link where they can take the quiz to see if they're a good fit for you. Again, that's David Frazier. That company's bunkielife.com, home of the bolt-on bedrooms. David, thank you for joining us today, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Thanks, Clay.
Take care, brother. Bye.
It was really great having this interview. It's one of the best interviews that I think I've had, and I had the most fun with it. So I really appreciate what you're doing.
Today's guest grew a $40 budget into a $6 billion brand. Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, today's show is a mind-expanding, wallet-growing edition of the Thrivetime Show on your radio and podcast download. Whoa. On today's show, we're interviewing the founder of FUBU, Damon John, about his new book, Power Shift, how you can transform any situation, close any deal, and achieve any outcome. Whoa. Now, folks, if you aren't excited enough just by recognizing the name of today's guest, consider this. On today's show, Damon John's going to teach you how to make a lasting connection. He's going to share with you about his favorite old school jams. Whoa. He's going to share with you how both he and his mom had already won the mental battle because they were all in when it came to putting their home up as collateral to build the FUBU brand. Whoa. He's going to share with you how they sold all of their furniture to make room for the factory equipment they needed to move into their house to make the brand happen. Whoa. He's going to share with you how we sold FUBU at trade shows without having a trade show booth. And that's the truth. Whoa. He's going to explain how he did not let dyslexia stop him from turning his dreams into reality. Whoa. He's going to share with you about how it took him from 1989 to 1997 to build FUBU into a sustainably profitable business model. Whoa. He's going to share with you about President Obama's nasty jump shot. He's on fire! Obama. He will teach you why he's a prolific note taker. He also shares with you why approximately 50% of the Shark Tank contestants do not really know their financials. Whoa. On today's show, Damon John will share with you how Tim, the owner of the local corner store, was actually his first real deal mentor.
I want to talk to you and talk to everybody out there about what I have learned is the most important and efficient way to get where you want to be. It's to visualize.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrivetime Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's CNC up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go!
We started from the bottom.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, you are in for a laser show as we enter into the dojo of Mojo Faux Show to interview the man with the plan, the guy that you know from the Shark Tank show, Damon John. Welcome on to the Thrivetime Show. How are you, sir?
Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, I am fired up to interview you. I remember seeing your stuff being rocked by LL Cool J back in the day and going, who is the guy who made that hat? Man.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just me. It was me and 3 other partners, but it was an amazing time, in hip hop history and cultural history, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Well, I want to ask you here because we all know about your success, but I'd like to start off, if we can, at the very bottom and the very beginning of your career. What was your life like growing up in New York?
I grew up in a lower middle class area in Hollis, Queens, and that Hollis, Queens area is right in between JFK and LaGuardia, and also in between Aqueduct Racetrack, Horse Racetrack, and Belmont Racetrack. So most of the people in the community, if they weren't going to the city, and then the Ideal Toy Factory, we either worked at Ideal Toy Factory or we shoveled, horse manure, or we shoveled bags onto airplanes. And then, unfortunately, the other place near us was Rikers Island. So you either worked there or you were visiting for a long, long time. So, that's the area. That's the area I grew up in. My father left my life happened and my parents got divorced. My father left when I was about 12 years old or 10 years old. I would never see or speak to him again. I was only child. My mother, I didn't have any other siblings, so we were just my mother and I. She worked 3 jobs to put the same, put food on the table, 3 part-time jobs, as well as trying to keep me off the streets. And right around 1986, something would happen in my neighborhood like it would happen in every other neighborhood. Crack would come into the neighborhood and would devastate the neighborhood, and many of my friends would die or go to jail. And the entrepreneurs that we saw there, being an African American, we never saw really entrepreneurs we never really saw entrepreneurs that looked like us on television, except for Fred G. Sanford, the junk man, and didn't look like he was doing that well. We would see entrepreneurs called drug dealers in our neighborhood, and many of us would want to emulate the thing closest to us. However, I wasn't a drug dealer, but at the same exact time in 86, there must be something in the water of Hollis, Queens, because we started to see these people who looked like us, talked and walked like us, but they weren't drug dealers and they were making a lot of money. Their name would be LL Cool J, Salt and Pepper, Run DMC, Ja Rule, 50 Cent, Tribe Called Quest, Young MC. All these people would come out of the square 5 miles of Hollis, Queens, and I wanted to be part of that movement, but I couldn't rap, sing, or dance.
Oh, come on. You could
I had
dance.
to find a way.
You could, I could sense you can dance. I could. Now, I want to ask you this. I started my first company back in the day. It was called DJ Connections. It became one of the nation's largest wedding entertainment companies. And I grew up loving LL Cool J, loving Run DMC. Who was your favorite old school artist? Eric
B. and Rakim would be my favorite, but
Really?
I don't know. I grew up in the era of Eric B. Rakim, Houdini, Public Enemy, and LL, and they all had a different DNA to their to their delivery. So it's kind of like, what's your favorite food? But once you get to your favorite food of sushi, is it tempura? Is it a roll? Is it a Kobayashi? I mean, so
yeah.
But I would say Eric B. and Rakim probably would be my favorite.
Now, do you have like a favorite old school jam? I mean, is there a certain old school jam where you go, that right there was the jam?
I guess because of Shark Tank, and maybe this was always in, and I never thought of it like this until you just brought it up.
Okay.
But if you look at rap, one of my favorite old school songs was Paid in Full. If you look at R&B, one of my favorite old school songs would be Ain't No Stopping Us Now.
Oh, yeah.
Or Rising to the Top by Kenny Burke. They would always be, and I'm just thinking about this now, this is the first time in 51 years I've ever thought about that, and I'm going to go on social media and say this, those are my favorite songs. They were always about empowerment, rising to the top, or making money in a good way, a legal way, and it was absolutely amazing.
When you go back into that old school flow, if you can go back to your 8th grade dance, sophomore dance, were you the cool guy that went on the dance floor first, or were you the guy who kind of was standing around the wall and you waited for that last song to come out there?
I was the cool guy, but I was not the cool guy who got on the dance floor. I was the cool guy who waited on the wall and played cool, but I was nervous as hell because when we grew up, you would get on the dance floor, and when I knew how to break dance a little bit, so I would get on the dance floor and do that. But when the slow songs came on, and all the girls went to their seats, or they were all sitting, and you had to physically walk 20 feet across the dance floor to ask a girl to dance, that 20 feet was like walking 2 miles. My heart was pounding, and if you put out your hand and you asked her to dance, and she said no, that walk back was the longest walk back in your life. But if she said yes.
Ooh. Now, do you remember, was there a particular old school slow song jam that you remember from back in the day that was just give me just one old school slow song. Just one so I can just kind of marinate on it. I need to just marinate on that moment.
I don't even need to marinate on it. I was listening to the other day, but there's 2, but I'll tell you the first one would be Tender Love by 4MDs, and the other one would be GQ, I Do Love You.
GQ, I Do Love You. GQ, I Do. This is the stuff here, Thrivers. The GQ, I Do Love You. We're going through kind of a weird time with this whole coronavirus stuff, and I think everybody just needs to queue up some GQ, I do love you.
I do love you.
Oh, there we go. Come on now. Let's just do 30 seconds real quick. Just kind of.
There you go.
Now tell me, who was the first girl who said yes on the dance floor? What was her name? The first girl.
Her name was Nicole. She had some big old braces.
Oh, Nicole with those big old braces. This song goes out to you. From me to you. And from the entire Thrive Nation, we dedicate this song to you because you're kind of a big deal. Oh, man, it's beautiful. Did you have disco ball? Do you have a disco ball and black lights?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, man. Was it in a gym? Was it in a gym or where was it?
It was in the lunchroom.
In a lunchroom?
Cafeteria.
Oh, awesome.
Cafeteria. They pulled all the tables out of the cafeteria.
Oh, man. I tell you what, I appreciate you, Damon John, for taking it old school right there, man. I appreciate you taking us back. Now, so you started FUBU, and you look like, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, I just mean it with all due respect, you can sew. But you looked like a guy who more could be like, you look like a baller to me, just from the outside. But you could sew. Did you play sports and sew, or were you just learning to sew? Or tell us about where you got those sewing skills.
I think that I didn't play sports. I loved baseball, and I wish I could, but I got caught up in the love of hip-hop. I think that if you look at Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, most of us in the industry who've gotten to a certain level, whether it's Diddy or Jay-Z or myself or Latifah, we were at that ripe age where we were young enough to do anything we want, but not old enough to have to pay bills. And I just immersed myself in hip hop for that age of like 12 to 18 years old. And that's all I knew because it was this emerging voice of the streets. It was like our version of Instagram and Twitter right now.
Yeah.
It was a new technology as far as I'm concerned. And I learned how to sew out of necessity because when you were a break dancer or a hip hop kid, you would go and buy clothes that you would need to reinterpret for the streets. If you're a break dancer and you're doing windmills, you can't have a lot of looseness on the bottoms of your jeans. So you would have to be able to take a straight line and tighten the bottom of your jeans so they didn't hit against each other when you were breakdancing. Because you didn't want your clothes to fade a lot of times, and you had to iron your clothes, and you get in your jeans or your pants, you get 9 creases as the front of the line, and you don't look well kept. Well, if you would do a permanent crease and sew a small stitch and pinch just the front of your pants all the way down to the bottom, then you would be able to. So I started to learn how to do just really straight lines to alter my clothes, but it wasn't glamorous being somebody who could sew a little bit when I decided to start sewing hats and come out with clothing, because in '89 when I first came out and I started selling hats on the corner, my friends who were drug dealers and everybody else, at that time, the perception of a designer, like you're saying, I look like a young guy who, can hang out and do other things.
You're a cool dude. You're a cool dude. You look like a beautiful man, a cool guy. The guy everyone says, that guy's cool. But I wouldn't think you could sew.
I was always cool dude in school. And then when I started sewing hats and stuff like that, the hood guys who were trying to keep it real, and my hands are up in parentheses right now.
Yeah.
They stopped talking to me because they thought at that time the perception of a man in fashion was an Italian flamboyant gay guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they thought I was gay, and they really
you went with it.
Started distancing themselves away. In the hood, listen. It is what it is, and there's a lot of people who have different sexual preferences, and I have no issue with that. And I didn't have an issue back then because actually my uncle was gay, and when I was always an independent kid, and I said, you know what, I'm an only child anyway. I didn't have no siblings. If you think that I'm gay, and if you don't like gay people, then I won't hang out with you either. Screw you. And I really got shunned from all the guys. They just said, hey, don't hang out with him.
Now let's talk about this. Now, once you started making these hats, you reached out to LL Cool J, who was one of the coolest dudes in the world. How did you get a hold of him, and then how did you get him to start wearing the FUBU? Did you happen, because he is like, at the time, he was the GOAT, for hip-hop, for rap. I mean, he was one of the top, in terms of record sales. How did you convince LL Cool J to start wearing your stuff?
Yeah, so LL was the ultimate at that time because there were only a dozen rappers in the entire world that anybody knew, and he was one of the top 4. But because he was going on tours and we happened to grow up next to him or around his area, probably about 8 blocks away, we would hear other kids and cousins and brothers of his or whatever who was going on tour being road managers or bodyguards, whatever the case is, and they would tell us where the next tour date is, and we would go up to the tour date, and we would just, I remember one time, I didn't know LL that well. He was like, well, who are all these kids? They were like, yeah, these kids are all from Hollis, Queens. He was like, all right, when he gave me a bag of his dirty laundry with underwear in it and said, you driving back home? Because we used to drive our own cars to like Troy, New York or Philadelphia. And he would say, take my underwear home to my grandmother to wash them. And we would be happy to take his underwear home. However, I put it in my new book, Power Shift. I know we'll touch on it in a minute. Here's how I did it. I realized that LL would never wear a shirt of mine because he didn't really know who I was, and I wasn't great. The brand wasn't out yet. But I had money for 50 shirts. So what I did with the 50 shirts was I made 50 shirts that were 5X and 6X because I realized one thing, that the large guys in my neighborhood, they had no choice of fashionable products. They only had Rochester Big and Tall, or they had to wear a white shirt or a big black shirt, and they all had to make custom products for themselves and cost a lot. I made 50 5X and 6X shirts, and I put my big logo on all those shirts. I gave it to all those guys, and because those guys are so happy to finally have somebody with fashion, a fashionable product, they would wear those shirts 10 times a month, unlike a cool kid who would wear it one time a month.
Oh.
And those guys ended up being in front of the red ropes in the clubs, bodyguarding LL Cool J, bodyguarding Run DMC, the ones in the front of the video. And after about a year of LL Cool J seeing all these guys wearing the shirts, he started to become accustomed with my brand. And then he said to one of those guys, hey, what am I, chopped liver? Why don't you see if, I'll take a shirt from him. And that was one of the introductions to LL Cool J. But I had to build influence with the people around him before going to him, because obviously everybody in the world was going directly to him.
Now, before we get into your new book here, I know this about you. And I don't think a lot of people know this about you. You started to get some traction, and you said to your mom, or your mom said to you, somebody said to somebody, let's take out a mortgage, or let's take out some equity out of our home, or let's cut. And my understanding is you put your house up to get the $100,000 needed to turn to build a makeshift factory in your home. Is that correct? Or tell us about that.
Yeah, so I would go out to the trade show and I would have a couple of shirts, and I would take $300,000 in orders off of those, the shirts that I had. I would come back and I get turned down by 27 banks. I didn't know what I was doing. And my mother said, listen, if you have $300,000 in orders, this is all we have is our nest egg. You've been working and putting as much money in this house as I have. Let's go out and take all the money we can out of this house. You then deliver the shirts and you make the $300,000 and you put the money back in. I have no idea how. My mother goes out and gets a $100,000 loan on our house, and our house is only worth $75,000. So shout out to moms with the creativity of a mother. And we would take that out and we would leverage that whole thing, and we would turn the house and we'd sell all the furniture we could, and anything we couldn't sell because the furniture was really old, we'd burn it. And we'd move industrial sewing machines into the house. I would sleep in sleeping bags next to the house. My mother would move out and get an apartment, and we would have seamstresses sewing that the clothes in the house. We turned the house into a factory.
And after you turned your house into a factory, I understand that you would go to trade shows but not have a booth, and you went to the Magic Trade Show in Vegas without an actual booth, but yet you came back with orders.
Well,
real?
That's how we got the $300,000 orders.
What?
Prior to us building, prior to us mortgaging the house, and then we go to the trade show and get more orders and more orders, and we couldn't keep up with them because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know. I ran out of the money. I ran out of the $100,000 because
how do you sell stuff at a trade show? How do you sell stuff at a trade show without having a booth? What was your pitch, man? How did you do it? You are like the wizard of trade shows.
My pitch is exactly what I tell everybody listening right now. If you have an idea and you build some kind of value in the market, and by marketing, you go out to a trade show, you don't get a booth, you walk around, you walk up to all the buyers, and you say, here's who I am, and here is my followers, or here's my sales, and you don't need a booth because you'll end up spending $20,000 on a booth. You'll be stuck in one place. You won't be able to rotate and work the whole show. I was working the whole show. And prior to even going to the show, I knew who my targets were, all the stores that were going out there. I would mail them a picture that I took of LL Cool J in our shirts, and I would say, you've seen it in the videos, and the kids have been asking for it. and Fubu will be at the trade show, but we're not going to have a booth. Look out for us.
You're blowing my mind. You're just blowing my mind. Now, you sold, I believe, $350 million of annual sales with Fubu. I mean, you guys have got it to the point where have you hit $350 million of sales in a year before? Is that correct?
Yeah, so right around 99, we started to about maybe 99. I mean, 1999, we started to hit about 300, 350.
Oh, wow.
And we would do that for about 4 or 5 years. And that's probably, those years, those are the good years of Fubu. 97, I think, end of 97 to around 2004.
You know what? I'm going to give you a mega point. I'm giving you a mega point. There you go. 1 mega point for you. You get 1 mega point for every year that you do $350 million of sales. Now, let's talk about your new book here. Let's talk about your new book. And I have a couple of your fans, a couple business guys joining me in the studio who have some questions for you. So your new book, Power Shift, transform any situation, close any deal, and achieve any outcome. You obviously are busy with Shark Tank. People want you to speak, do consulting. Why write the new book? Well, what inspired you to write this new book, Power Shift, transform any situation, close any deal, and achieve any outcome?
I think you just really said it, because I'm involved with Shark Tank and I do public speaking. And my last 2 books, listen, I'm dyslexic, and to come out with 3 books in 5 years is very challenging. I don't write a book just to write a book. I don't really need to. You kind of can see me on TV, right? So it's not for a vanity thing. But one of my biggest books were, The Power of Broke, You Don't Need Money to Make Money. Then I would come back with, listen, how do you maximize 24 hours a day? We all have the same 24 hours. And what I realized after that is the most commonly asked question after that was, well, how people were saying, I don't have any power. I'm just this type of person, or somebody took the power from me, or who's going to give me power? My boss is not going to let me, my husband or my wife, whatever the case. And I realized that people don't understand the power that starts with you. Nobody's here to give you power. I'm not going to come to your house and take you off the couch and make you more successful than I am. Do I want you to be successful? Yes, but I got my own damn days job, and I'm not going to do that for you. But power is something that we all have, and it's the ability to negotiate. The only thing that separates you from me, or me from somebody else, and who's successful or not, or more successful, is what they negotiated through life. But I noticed that people all thought that negotiation is a very transactional thing, and it happens on that 1 hour you're sitting in front of the sharks in Shark Tank. No, it doesn't.
True.
It happens when you create some form of influence, the same way I did with the bodyguards before I got to LL Cool J. Then it's the negotiation, and the negotiation is not what's in it for you, it's what's in it for the person on the other side of the table. And furthermore, after that, it's going to be the relationship that you nurtured after that, because the first deal, or the first time you meet somebody, a deal almost never happens the first time you meet them. It usually happens after various different forms of contact, after the person goes back and finds out how you've influenced them or other people, or the relationships that you've already nurtured, and they circle back and tell this person why you guys or you girls need to do the deal. And so that's what the book is about, and it's about giving people advice on how to empower themselves, especially in this day and age, whether it's getting the remote control away from your significant other, or getting a deal with, somebody that you want to work with.
How long were you nurturing those relationships with bodyguards before you saw any fruit from it?
About 5 years. I was nurturing those relationships. And I want to be very clear. I was nurturing before I had Fubu, because I always had known that I just always found a way to respect others in their position. And a lot of people don't realize the gatekeeper is often the significant other, the child, the mother, the bodyguard, the best friend. And I just always realized to be kind to others, and it would pay back in a large dividends after that.
How long did it take Fubu to become profitable?
I started Fubu in '89. I closed it down 3 times, from '89 to '92. Because I ran out of capital. I would finally get my deal with Norman and Bruce Weisser from Samsung Textile Division around early '97, and we started making profit in end of '97.
So it took you 8 years to become profitable.
Yeah, took us 8 years to become profitable, with a bunch of different closures and hurdles and various other things. Yeah.
That's powerful. People don't realize, Tesla took over 10 years to become profitable. ESPN took over 10 years. Amazon took almost 10 years. Paul Hood, you kind of look like as cool as Damon John. I mean, you're a CPA, but you're a cool-looking CPA. You dress sharp. You two are very similar. What questions would you have for Damon John? You two beautiful people.
You really think he's that handsome?
I do. I've looked at pictures. I mean, you guys look like twin brothers. I tell you what, it's unbelievable. Beautiful.
Yeah, we may need to get a picture together. Hey, so I got a question for you. So I grew up single mom, alcoholic father, blah, blah, blah. And I've read books that say a lot of successful people have kind of overdoting moms, like one book said that, hey, if I told my mom I was going to be a bank robber, she would say, baby, you'd be the best bank robber ever. Where do you think, talk to me about how you became when this first got started, because it sounds like you had tenacity, you didn't place your value on you and your beliefs based on what other people around you thought and said. Tell me how do you think you became that person to be able to elevate to where you are today?
I think we have like-minded thinking mothers. I mean, because she told me the same thing. She told me, I was driving in the car with her one day, and she said, look around, and you can look at every single building, every single car, everything in this world was created with one person who had one idea that took one action. She said, why can't you do that? And I didn't have an answer for her. And being dyslexic, she always told me, that I can do anything I want to do, and she would support me. And she said that, she would say to me one day, some stuff like, you go out there and do what you can do. And as long as you put the most effort into this thing, I'm going to put the most effort into anything that I can do to support you. And, don't get me wrong, I didn't value it sometimes until one time, I would let her down or stuff like that. And I would see my mother just so depressed. Not the fact that I failed, but the fact that my attitude was that it was okay to fail and that I let her down. And I would never want to see her brokenhearted like that again. And I wanted to make sure that I did the best for her because I saw how much she worked and how she was busting her butt. So I think we have, like-minded mothers. Listen, my mother would send me away to a different city or country every single year because she wanted me to see the world. I would stay one summer in Barbados, the other one in Hawaii, and other places. Now, most people listening to that right now will be like, wow, well, your mother was rich. No, my mother wasn't rich. My mother would do this. She would have a female friend that lived on a naval base in Oahu. She would say, can you take Damon and I will take your son over here in Queens. And then my mother would buy a 17 connecting flight from New York to Oahu that would cost $100. She would buy it 3 years earlier. It would take me 2 months to get there, but I would get there. And that's just what it is. Mom was a hustler.
Now, David, John, I want to know, and your mom sounds like a great lady, but I just want to know how great she was. Did your mom ever send you to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to experience the culture and the sod farms we have out here?
No, she didn't. I didn't get there until I was older.
Come on, why would she not send you to Tulsa?
She did send me to California one year, the wine country. I forgot where it was, but it was, I was about 11 years old and I didn't drink any wine, and I was in that desert. I felt like I was dying. But other than that, yes, she would send me anywhere she could.
Have you been to Tulsa, Oklahoma? Have you been out here yet?
I have been to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was there. I think it was one of my last trips before this tragic situation. Yes.
Okay. So, and where are you today? By the way, for all of our listeners out there who are navigating this coronavirus together, where are you right now?
I am in Miami, Florida.
Okay. All right. Well, Corey Minter, this guy, Corey Minter, he has built one of the Midwest's top staffing firms. And Corey, I'm sure you have a question for the shark, for the founder of FUBU, Damon John. What's your question?
Oh man. I've always been interested since I'm sure all of us entrepreneurs have watched Shark Tank for a good amount of time. But if you've been in business long enough, you're always thinking, all right, these guys, the sharks, they're bringing on all of these new businesses. They've got a really interesting perspective on business in that you bring on this new business into your company, and now you're going to see what's really going on. You got to see the highlight reel in their presentation, but now you're seeing the real deal. Is there a common denominator that you've noticed as a common problem in businesses as your first analysis when you're beginning to ramp them up into your system?
Oh, good question. I mean, there's a common denominator why we will not do business with people.
Okay.
When we start to ramp them, I have not. One common denominator probably is they don't, and I understand they're coming to the sharks for cash flow and backing, but they're not being creative with their dollars, and they're thinking they can buy every other asset they need instead of rolling up their sleeves and understanding social media and various other things. And they think somebody else is going to solve their problem. And then that's where a lot of the much needed capital goes, because they go and build a $50,000 website when they need a $1,000 Facebook page. Or, they say, well, look at this inventory I have. Let me go and spend more advertising on the inventory. But the question is, they don't realize a lot of time money highlights their weaknesses. If you need more money for your advertising for your for your product, you have either two things. You have a weak advertising campaign and or target marketing, and you're spending more money hitting people that either you're the wrong customer or the wrong messaging, or you have a bunch of bad inventory and all you're doing is highlighting the crappy inventory you have, or it's at a bad price. You're not figuring things out, and you're thinking money's going to solve all the problems.
Well, in part one of your new book here, Power Shift, Transform Any Situation, Close Any Deal, and Achieve Any Outcome, you talk about making an impression. So let's just pretend that all the listeners out there you're talking to the right person. You're talking to the right ideal and likely buyer. You're talking to the right potential connection. Talk to us about how we're supposed to make a good impression, or maybe some of the concepts you teach in the book about making an impression.
All right, so there's a couple of ways. You may run into a Mark Cuban in an elevator, and you say, how the hell can I have made a good impression or build influence on Mark Cuban? I got 90 seconds with the guy. So first of all, you walk into the elevator and you tell the person, hey, Mark Cuban, I value what you do. I think that I can bring value to you in these ways, but here's what I've been doing really quick. And if you have any interest, please, here's a way to look me up, or have one of your staff members look you up. You give them a card, or you say, I'll reach you through whatever. Mark Cuban, by the way, answers every single email he gets. I have no idea how he does it. You leave the elevator. The influence you built right there, you didn't tell him your problem. You told him some solutions and how you're doing great. You're going to move on with or without him. You also given him an easy way to contact you or you to follow up, and you've also not pressed him for his number, and or you said, I'll follow up somebody else. But Mark Cuban's going to leave that elevator, and if you made some kind of good impression, I can't say you did, because maybe it was the way that you were acting that made him like you or not. He's going to look you up on his phone, or he's going to have somebody else look you up. Then they're going to scrape through all your social media, and they're going to look not only about you, but they're going to look at who you hang out with. What time are you doing these things? Because when I look through social media, I've literally seen people who will pitch me on their companies. I pulled them up, and their husband was on next to them at a dinner party wearing a T-shirt with a Confederate flag. Oh. They're not going to know why I didn't call the guy, or why I didn't call them back, right? I've also seen people on social media, when I look them up, they're at a bunch of charitable events. Every single time they put a post, it's about how spiritual they are or how you should help others. And every time I see them, they're smiling, even when it's tough times. And I say, I need a mentor like that in my business, because when I'm not there, I need somebody else to make sure the room is smiling and everybody's on the same level. So that's how you can build influence in those situations. When you walk into a meeting, though, however, you really need to try to understand the target, what's in it for them. And when people say no, you say that when you're asking, you're pitching, you can say, what is in your way? What is making this difficult for you? How can I make this easier for you? People will generally tell you exactly what's their challenge. They may be saying no, not because they don't like you, because they're overwhelmed. They don't have a person in that area of the business. They don't know enough about the business. So you'll give them reasons to say, listen, if you come back with this. But people are so transactional. They believe, well, you just said no, you didn't love me. It's not about that. That person across the table has their own issues. In this interview right now, in this book, I did interviews with so many amazing people, and I did them in person with the people. But Mark Cuban, who's sitting next to me on Shark Tank for years, I know he only communicates through text. And at first, if I went to him and he would have said, I can't do the interview, I don't have time to meet with you, D, some people would have got offended. I did the entire interview over texting on my phone with the guy, and I got it out. I made it easy. I made the barrier of entry as easy as possible for him. And a lot of people don't think about that when it comes to who's on the other side of the table.
You know, I don't know if you talk about this in your book at all, but let's go back to Confederate flags for a second. As a general rule, do you frown upon angry, aggressive rednecks who are a big fan of the Confederate flag? Is that sort of a pro tip, kind of a bonus tip for the listeners out there?
No, it's an assumption of something, and it's an assumption of where you think this person believes in.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all have, you all have 10 seconds to deter somebody or attract somebody, and there's a lot of opportunity for every one of us in the world. So, that's going to immediately turn me off personally.
Yeah.
It may attract other people. That's up to you. That's your brand, and whatever you're trying to put out there. I'm not telling you whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's just not for me.
You know, in your book, you talk about, in part one of your book, you talk about you got to stand for something, okay? And you mentioned, the Confederate flag's not something you stand for, not something you want to be a part of, but you got to stand for something, So talk to us in this politically correct world. How do you know what to stand for and what not to stand for? Some people are like, I want to stand for something, but what if somebody doesn't agree with me? What do you stand for? What do you not stand for? What's your take on standing for something in the book?
I think, listen, in the hood you call it keep it 100, and other times they keep it real. You stand for whatever you stand for. I'm not here to tell you what your moral stance should be. I happen to like a rapper and named Old Dirty, and guess what? He was an old dirty. He stood for what he said he was, right? And in this political environment, you can stand for somebody, you can support somebody and say, hey, I love everything you're doing here, but you shouldn't have said that. You're wrong about this, but I love everything else. It's okay. You do that with your parents. You do that with your children. You do that with the ones you love. I was an ambassador for President Obama. I didn't like not a lot, but I didn't like some of the things that he did. And if somebody would have been across the dinner table arguing with me and saying, well, he was wrong for that, I'm not going to go, well, just because I'm an ambassador, just because he's black, or just because I like this, he's right. He is not necessarily right.
Damon, I know what you don't like about Obama. You don't like his basketball game. How whack or how good is his basketball game? Tell us, what do you know about Obama's?
His basketball game, he's nasty when it comes to basketball. And I like his basketball game because I can't play basketball, so who cares? But, don't let him go against me on the sewing machine. I'll
bring it on.
I'll win on that.
Now, did President Obama have a nasty kind of an old man hook? Did he have like the pump fakes? What was his? Did he have a couple? He had killer crossover.
He had a nice jumper. He had a really good crossover and a nice jumper.
Hey, why don't you go head to head? Practice social distancing. You don't want to get too close to each other, but why don't you guys go head to head, 1-on-1, you two?
Who?
Obama. You and
President Obama?
Yeah, you should do that, man.
Well, you know what? I was an ambassador for him, but I'm not gonna lie and act like I knew him like that. I used to call his man's man to get a hold of him. So I can't act like I knew him
I'm
that
just
well.
saying.
I was in the room with him about 5 times.
I'm just saying a lot of you guys are kind of holed up right now, quarantining and stuff. I'm just saying as long as there's 10 people or less, you should get in there and play. It's like a cage match. It's like Damon John versus President Obama.
Listen, I play ball. Listen, he's the president, and in Trump too. I play ball with any standing president or ex-president because it doesn't matter. They're people who are leading our amazing country, so it doesn't matter.
That's fair.
Clay, I was going to say, this is Paul Hood again, Hood CPAs. Clay, I was going to say a funner game to watch would be him and Trump playing 1-on-1.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Now, that would be fun.
I think Damon John would win there.
I think so. Hey, Damon, I
don't know. I don't know about his jumper. He may be okay.
True.
He's a little active. He plays tennis. You never know. Don't sleep on him.
His hair might get down in his eyes, though, and then that's a secret.
That would be your number one
that's
thing.
Like down in his eye. So,
no. The best part is the way he puts his hands out. He's definitely got a great guard.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right.
I wouldn't get around those hands.
Well, hey, David, my last name is Hood. And so I've got a shirt that says it's all good in the hood. So you just keep talking about the hood. I love that. That kind of gives me some publicity, I think, when this thing comes out. What's
your company called? Hood what?
Hood CPAs. HoodCPAs.com is where we're at. Yeah. We've came from nothing. We have offices in 4 cities and have clients in about 35 different states. So God's good. Hey, so I had a question for you. So how do you bridge that gap? Because, see, I'm the same thing. I grew up, there was a point in my life where I was the only white kid in class. I went to North Tulsa and went to a school called Bunch, and I was the only white kid in class. So I didn't see color, but I did see if somebody wore something or dressed a certain way, I may say that's not for me, but I'm not going to judge them necessarily for that. So how do in our world? I mean, it's refreshing to hear other people say that, especially out here in Tulsa, we kind of have a view of people that are celebrities and all of that, and you seem like just a phenomenally great guy. So how do you think we could bridge that gap with hey, I don't agree with that guy, but that don't mean I don't like him, or
Well, that's a good pro tip. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's the upbringing. I think that when people, I just really don't know how people have that level of ignorance. It was my upbringing. So, when my mother got divorced from my father, at the age of 16, she would bring another man in my life who became her boyfriend for a long period of time. But I call him my stepdad. He happens to be of the Jewish faith, and he happens to be white. And his brother was one of the lead attorneys who were fighting in America to free Mandela from the American side, from a coalition. He taught me a couple of things. He taught me that love doesn't come in a color or a gender, and he told me that he showed me, through love, that white people are just as crazy as black people, and we all have our same issues, and we all have our same aspirations and our love. And so I grew up knowing that love doesn't come in a color or a gender. And so I think it's from an early stage. And I don't know how to tell people that, that it really is about a man or a woman's content. I did a post on social media the other day, and I was talking about, what was going on in this world. And I was saying, whether it was the Holocaust or whether it was the civil rights movement, none of these things ever happened without people of all colors, all shapes, and all sizes getting together to abolish what they thought was wrong. Right. And I think that people just see only one thing and think they're very small-minded. And maybe that was my mother sending me to a different place every year to see Hawaiians or people in Barbadians or whites or blacks, and seeing that everybody had a commonality. They just want to support their family. They don't want to be judged for things that they haven't done, and they want to be able to test themselves and love and worship who they want to worship. I'm not trying to make it warm and fuzzy. I have no idea when I see people with ignorance over sexual preference or color or size. I have no understanding of why that happens. I really don't.
It's jackassery. It's a new word.
100%.
It's jackassery.
Yeah.
That's the word I've been coining. It's jackassery. Now, David, I want to ask you this. In your book, folks, if you haven't bought the book yet, pick up the book today. It's called Power Shift, Transform Any Situation, Close Any Deal, and Achieve Any Outcome. In the book, you talk about making a connection last. Now, I know for me, whenever I want to make a connection last, I queue up Kenny G, the song Songbird, and I'll have this play in the background, and I'll just something memorable happens. Usually I get booed by people, but again, I mean, that's just my move. But how do you make a connection last?
So it's called in negotiation because I go into the book into very, very fine ways of negotiating, meaning body language, meaning ways that you can negotiate. And when we call impression, we call that opening a new file. If you go into a room with somebody and there's a lot of commonality, you can ask them. You can open a new file, right? You can say something like, "Listen, where are you from?" "Well, I'm from Niagara Falls." "Okay. I heard that people went over the falls in a barrel." I'm sure you ask that all the time. How many people actually went over the falls in a barrel? Argument's sake, that's just something simple, but you probably know because you're from Niagara Falls. You've always heard that.
Yeah.
What that will do is open a file, because every time you think about the going over the falls in a barrel or vice versa, whatever the case is, you'll remember that guy, Damon John. A lot of people know me now from my do on social media. I do dad jokes. I'm stupid with dad jokes. I like them. I have a 3-year-old and I have a 22 and a 27-year-old, and all of them are pissed off when I tell them a dad joke. And when people come in the room, they tell me dad jokes. And when I tell that joke again, I remember that person. That's called opening a new file. You can also, you don't have to be a historian. You can say, "How many kids you have?" "Oh, I got 3. And then you talk about your kids and you find this place of similarity to connect to each other. And that really opens a new file. It gives people more of a mentality of thinking about you. You can also do it by having a hood accounting or hood CPA. I'm always going to remember that, because it's hood CPAs. I'm going to remember that forever. I'm going to remember Kenny G and Songbird the next time I talk to you with your song. You're opening new files, but you have to be conscious about how you do it.
Now, if you could, and I know you're not a preacher, you're more of a teacher than a preacher, but if you had to just, preach one knowledge bomb for our listeners out there, do you have like something you want to just, if you had the mic, it's like before you drop the mic, you had just one more, you're going to inspire with some fire. What's the one thing you would share with all the Thrive Nation out there?
I would say that in this good day in this land, you need to. In this good day in this land, this thing's gonna change.
Come on.
Change is inevitable.
Yes.
Whether it was '98 the crash, whether it was 2000 the dot-com bubble, whether it was 2001 with planes crashing, the buildings of 2008, you are always going to find change, and people are always going to be scared. This has happened for the last 100 years or 200 years, a million years of our lives. But what can you change? What are you in charge of changing? Can I hear amen?
That's right. Amen.
You're in charge of changing the only thing that you'll ever have for the rest of your life, and that's called yourself. That's called your brain. That's the only way you can change that is you constantly educate yourself. You got to learn something every morning and not at night, because if you learn something in the morning, it may be something that saved your life so you can be around that night. It's all about education so you can create change.
Oh yeah. That right there was hot. Oh, my face just melted. Unbelievable. Wow.
Shout out to Reverend Floyd Flake. Shout out to Reverend Floyd Flake from my neighborhood.
All right. Now, okay, in your book, you talk about doing your homework, in this book, Power Shift. You say you got to do your homework. What do you mean by doing your homework?
You know what? I'm gonna make sure that I talk about one lady who did her homework where it's applicable to people who are home today, like the entire world is.
Yeah.
I have in the book everybody. I've studied all these subjects who created change, such as Pitbull and Lindsey Vonn, who practices 4 years just to win a millisecond over the best athletes in the entire world, and she's the most awarded skier in history, men, women, and anything else. But I'm going to talk about one woman who did her homework. Her name is Crystal. She worked at a university, and she took her maternity leave. She goes and has a child, comes back. She did her homework, though, while she was on maternity leave. She comes back and says to them, listen, I had a premature baby. I cannot give you the 40 hours that I would love to give you. Can I just work from a couple of hours, half my hours at home? I've done my homework on how to work from home virtually. And they said, we really love you, too, but unfortunately, the school and the policy will not allow us to do that. So you either have to give us the 40 hours or, unfortunately, and we're going to have to let you go. But the homework that she did is the fact that she researched and realized that the number one job for females in this country is executive assistants and things of that nature. Of course, there are many females that are CEOs as well. And she realized that people outsource a lot of virtual work to places like India and Singapore, but people wanted to work with American virtual assistants. So she found a company called Belay, and she became a virtual assistant and put her time into that while she was home. That's what she was preparing to do when she worked at the university. Now she lives in Ohio. She gives me 20 hours, gives another person 5 hours, another person 10 hours.
Yep.
And by the way, after this whole thing came, when everybody had to stay at home, I've asked her, could she give me 35 hours to teach my team how to be virtual? And she did that, thank God. I had to beg her to do that because she's so overwhelmed with business. She does not have to trek through the snow, go through the heat, sit in any office. She gets to sit home, watch her baby, have fun, dictate the hours that she wants to work, and the people that she wants to work with, and she's making 2 times the amount of money that she's ever made in her entire life, and she will never be at the mercy of an employer ever again because she did her homework and understood how to move into the next segment of where we're going as a country or as technology is taking us. And that's because she did her homework. That's a
good word. Now, we're going to go into the rapid fire, final 90 seconds. I want to respect your time, so I got final 90 seconds. I got 4 rapid-fire questions, 2 from me, 1 from Paul, 1 from Corey. Here we go. You come across as a very proactive person, and by the way, a very beautiful man. How do you organize the first 4 hours of every day?
I organize the first hour that I do as much cardio as I can, and then I get my brain running and the juice is flowing, and then I meditate / do my goals every single day for the first the second hour, and I read the same goals that I read right before I went to sleep, and they are 10 goals. 6 of them expire in 6 months. The other 4 expire in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. The ones that expire in 6 months range from health to wealth to faith to family time. And the reason I read them before I go to bed is because the last thing I want to think about when I go to sleep, because science has proven that almost 75% of the things that you think about when you go to bed is either what you fear is going to happen or you hope is going to happen. The reason I read them when I wake up in the morning is I take one action towards every one of those goals. And I never hit those 6 months goals because I set them so high. But if I'm supposed to, argument's sake, make $100 in that 6 months, I'm going to make $50 and I'm going to reset it to make $200 the next 6 months. Then after that, I spend about an hour on the phone answering all the things that I can do without being in the office or the plane or the train, so I can have some silence around me and not be disturbed by anybody else. And then after that, I would probably eat my first meal, which would be around lunch.
Wow. Okay, that right there, folks. The first hour, cardio. The second hour, planning goals. The third hour, making calls. And then after that, eat some lunch. Okay, I'm getting this. I'm taking notes here. So making calls. Okay, making calls. I'm typing this up here. Making calls.
And I wish I could tell you that. I wish I could say that it all ran that smooth all the time.
Yeah.
Because half the time I'm running, to a plane or whatever the case is. But if I can get that day in 50% of the time, I'm already ahead of the game.
Okay, so here we go. Now, my final question that I have for you, and then Paul has a question, and so does Corey. A lot of entrepreneurs do stuff that's everyone else says is weird, like an idiosyncrasy, but it's kind of like their superpower. Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day. Zuckerberg does that. Obama started wearing the same thing or similar things every day. Do you have like a superpower or like an idiosyncrasy that maybe some people think is weird, but for you it's like a superpower?
I personally don't think so. I think I write down a bunch of notes on pieces of paper, and I have a million pieces of paper in my hand, and then in my pocket, and then I go in and jot them down during that. When I said I go to bed at 2 a.m, it's when I'm organizing all those notes. That's probably about it. And then most people know me from wearing my suits and being somewhat fashionable, but I'm usually in a hoodie and sweats all the time, so I'm comfortable because I do wear suits so often, and when I have that time to relax, I don't want to think about what I need to wear. I just throw it on, very much as Zuckerberg look, but with sweatpants and run around, and people are just usually surprised at that.
All right, well, Paul Hood, you got time for one final question, then Corey Mentor. So, Paul, what's your final question?
Gotcha. Well, I messaged my team, which 2 of them are my sons, and one of my sons wants to know how proactive is your accountant, but I told him it's probably not appropriate. So here's one question. How many people who make it to Shark Tank don't know their financials or don't have an accurate financial?
I would say probably about 50%.
Okay.
50%. Okay, Corey.
It's not that they don't know it. They're not accurate. They're not taking in a certain amount of things such as what's their salary, who are they paying elsewhere, how much, they don't know how much interest is they're paying, and
right.
They don't realize how it's going to end up. Yeah.
Well, we teach our clients that, if you're trying to lose weight, you never step on the scale or the scale is in Chinese, it doesn't do you any good. So you got to know those numbers.
Why are you ripping on Chinese scales all the time? It's like the third or fourth time you ripped. Okay. Corey, what is your final question for Damon John?
Yeah, last question here, Damon. You had mentioned just briefly the influences that your mother and your stepdad had on you growing up and how they shaped your perspective. I'm curious, did you have a mentor specifically in the area of a business mentor? And then what was there any lessons that you learned from them that were really like difference maker type changes in your pathway to business?
Excellent question. I had mentors. I didn't realize that they were mentoring me at the time, but my first external mentor was a guy who owned a corner store in my neighborhood. His name was Tim. He was a veteran, and I used to go. I didn't know what interning was, but I would go at 10 years old, 11 years old, and I'd sweep up the store for candy. But he understood the fundamentals of business. So a lot of people out there looking for mentors, they don't need the Bill Gates and the Warren Buffetts of the world. I think that, like what you're doing right now, if you know somebody who's been in business 20 years, who I don't care what they own, they've learned how to deal with, they know their numbers, they learn how to deal with financing and competition and all kind of different changes. So Tim used to teach me about, how to deal with customers. How about my inventory? You either, there's 2 ways to operate business: increase sales or reduce costs, right? There's only 3 ways to deal with a customer. There's acquire a new one, upsell a current one, or make one buy more frequently. And I would learn these things from like Tim, and then I would later go on and I would learn from different other mentors about customer service, about over providing for the customer, about quality insurance. But I would do that over the course of my 20 years growing. I would always seek mentors, and even till today, I still have gone out to seek other mentors, depending on where my life is going. So I think life is a series of mentors.
Damon, John, I appreciate you so much for being on the show. And if you're out there today and you're quarantined and you're stuck at home, you might be looking for something to do. And I might recommend that you read a book, because your mind becomes what the mind is fed. So pick up a copy today of Damon John's new book, Power Shift: Transform Any Situation, Close Any Deal, and Achieve Any Outcome. And if you're looking to lose weight, don't eat for the next 2 days. Save up the $20 needed and buy a copy of Power Shift: Transform Any Situation, Close Any Deal, and Achieve Any Outcome. Damon John, thank you so much, boss.
I really had a good time. And you know what? There's about 4 questions on here that I've never been asked, and it's going to make me think about how I can share that with my audience too. So I really appreciate the conversation we had, and the music. I may have to do some of that music too. So thank you for inspiring.
And we like to end each and every show with a boom, because boom stands for big, overwhelming, optimistic momentum. And that's what it takes to build a business and to grow a brand to the next level. Well, folks, on today's show, on part 1 of today's show, we had the opportunity to interview Damon John, the guy behind FUBU. And he was sharing with us about how he got started as an entrepreneur. And there's a lot to be learned there. However, on part 2 of today's show, I want to introduce you to a man who's based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And let me tell you the 5 areas that this man has had success in. And there could be more, but he is a former member of the SWAT team. So that's like the highest level of the law enforcement community. This is a man who is a professional athlete. This is a man who is a best-selling author. This is a man who is a movie producer, film producer guy. This is a guy who is an entrepreneur. This is a guy who is, we're getting into 6 now. This is a guy who's a doctor. This is a guy who has been on the Thrivetime show. That doesn't count as a win, but he's been successful in 6 different areas. And we're going to talk about what we talked about on part 1 of today's show, the rhythm of entrepreneurship, which is define what you think is going to work, act, measure, refine. Define, act, measure, refine. That's the rhythm. Define what you think is going to work. Act. Oh, yes. Take action. Then measure the results. Then refine. And with that being said, Dr. Sherwood, welcome onto the Thrivetime Show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, and I will beg to differ. I think that one of the greatest achievements, successes that I've had is being able to be a consistent guest on the Thrivetime Show for a number of years running. That's got to be some kind of record, Clay. Seriously, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, we love having you on the show because you can talk medicine, you can talk health, you can talk wealth, you can talk entrepreneurship. I want to get into this define, act, measure, refine process. Step 1, you have to, take the time to research and to define what you think is going to work. So let's just say that somebody goes to Sherwood.tv, your website, and they say, look, I'm weighing 190 pounds and I want to get down to 160 pounds. So let's just say someone's watching this, they weigh 190, they want to get down to 160, or a woman's watching this, she weighs 150, she wants to get down to 120, or whatever that number is. You have to define what you think is going to work. And I think a lot of people think something was going to work, maybe a fad diet. It didn't work. They thought maybe a fad workout routine would work. It didn't work. But maybe they at least acted. So let's talk about that for a second. Why does everybody out there need to take the time to really clearly define what they think is going to work before they rush into action?
Well, if you've got the wrong target, you're going to be aiming at the wrong thing. For example, what you just said, I think I always sort of refine their target in a situation like that. Somebody comes in, they want to lose X number of pounds. I'll refine that and say, wait a minute. Don't target weight loss. Let's target body composition change. In other words, I want to see less excessive fat and more lean muscle tissue. And I want to move your percent body fat from where it is now to this percent body fat. And they're like, oh, I haven't thought about that. And that takes the pressure off of that person at that moment in time, because I can say it's no longer about your weight, but it's about a body composition analysis that we can measure clearly to show improvement over the course of time.
So again, even just in the process of talking to you about optimizing someone's health, you're going to help them define goals that make more sense. Now, eventually somebody has to act. So let's say that you sat down with a patient, you did a consultation, and you say, all right, Carl, we're going to help you lose 20% body fat or 10% or 5% or whatever the number is. Walk us through the actions. What kind of actions are you going to guide somebody through?
Well, when you're talking about changing life. You have to think about changing lifestyle habits. And so I go into the 4 areas in which we all have control over: nutrition, or choices of what we put in our mouth, what we drink; sleep habits, the way we manage stress, and the way we move. And those things are in our court as human beings. So I work through each one of those things with each person and give them short little techniques, goals in which to improve a little bit every day. For example, with movement, if they haven't been exercising at all for like 2 years, I'm not going to tell them to go to the gym every day. I'm going to tell them to get the tennis shoes on, and I want one, just walk to the mailbox and back 10 times, once a day. And if they can do that, they win. And I celebrate those victories with them. So every one of these things has got to be a personalized, failure-proof step of action they have to take. And I want to lean into that. I want to give them more failure-proof successes over the course of time, and then success breeds success.
Define, act, measure. We have to measure what we treasure. By default, we are always going to slack or we don't track. We have to define, act, measure. We have to measure what we treasure. We have to act. What? Define, act, measure. But once you begin to take action, you have to measure what you treasure. Because whatever you don't track in that area, you'll begin to slack. I remember starting my first company, djconnection.com. I was super clear with myself. I said, self, in order to achieve my goals, self, you, us, the 3 of us, me, myself, we're going to have to get 3 jobs. So I got a job at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. I remember working at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. Applebee's had the green shirt, Target had the red shirt, DirecTV had the black shirt, had the different shirts. And only one time did I mess up my shirts. But I was very, very active with Target, Applebee's, DirecTV, doing those jobs. And I remember thinking, I am going to save up all the money needed to start my own company. And once I do start my own company, I'm going to have to keep other jobs until I can at least replace the income from the other jobs with my one job. And I was very clear. I had the math all figured out. So I knew, okay, if I can DJ at least a certain number of weddings per weekend or events per weekend, weddings, birthdays, clubs, whatever, if I could do enough shows that I could eventually quit working at Target, Applebee's, and DirecTV and start my own thing. But it's very clear. And I measured, and I used to have a mirror, and I would take my marker. I took a dry erase, and every time that I would save $1,000, I would take a Sharpie or a dry erase, and I'd mark it on the glass. So every time that I saved $1,000, I'd get out my dry erase and mark it on the mirror until eventually I had enough money saved up to start my own thing. But people that would visit me, occasionally I'd have friends or somebody who would visit my house, and they would go, my apartment, they would say, dude, you can't even see out this mirror. What is this? And I'm like, that right there is my savings tracking system. I want to get your thoughts on this. Somebody has to measure the results. Everybody has to measure the results. You have to measure. And I think that's a big value of your health enhancement wellness coaching program. You help people track the results. Talk about the importance of tracking your results.
Oh, if you can't measure something, it can't be part of your goal. If you can't measure it, what's the point, right? It's just this opaque piece of vision that's not clear. It's an unclear goal. It's not refined. So, we measure in blood work, we measure in body composition, we measure in all kinds of laboratory work through saliva testing, urine testing, et cetera. So always able to measure what's going on. And I call these key non-negotiable measurables, and they really, really are. I'll set those things out of here. By this point, we should be here. By this point, we should be here. And if we don't get there, we refine our goals a little bit, because it's always about, if you don't measure it, then why are you doing it? So I want to take certain nutrients, vitamins, minerals, whatever the case may be. I need to be able to measure the micronutrient values at the intracellular level. So I have a test to do that. So I know that I'm just not taking something for the giggles and grins, hoping it does and gets to where it's supposed to go without me measuring it.
Define, act, measure, refine. That's the process. Define what you think is going to work, act, measure the results. So let's talk about refine. And once you start to measure, you'll start to go, you know what, I'm maybe not going at a fast enough of a pace. Or, wow, I'm doing great, but maybe not as great as I thought I would be doing. I need to crank up my effort. I need to stop eating this, stop eating that. In the business context, maybe this advertisement's working, this advertisement isn't. This strategy is working, this strategy isn't. Let's talk about the define, act, measure, then the refine. I think a lot of people get hesitant to change
what's not working. There's somewhat of a habit, a habitual poverty, where somebody has a plan that doesn't work, and for some reason they're loyal to dysfunction. I'm not exactly sure what that cosmic habit force is where we're loyal to dysfunction. I call it jackassery, the wealth repelling disorder known as jackassery. But talk about that for a second. Define, act, measure, refine. Eventually, once you've measured, you're going to have to refine and make adjustments. Let's talk about that for a second.
Well, just like repeated positive inputs create this repetitive known outputs. The same is true with positive or negative thoughts and verbalizations and patterns. Now, I've watched people that are stuck in a pattern of sickness, and they would rather talk about something they know, even though it's dysfunctional, as opposed to something they don't know because they're too scared to go a place they don't know, even though they know it's better. So they stay in that sick position like that. I see people do that financially. I see them do it emotionally. I see them do it physically, Clay, and they just don't move past that. I've watched people get from place of sickness too many times. They talk about sickness all the time. And I've said this on this show and many others. The greatest distractors in life are death, disease, sickness, and lack. We're always talking about those things. That's where we're stuck. And so we always got to shift out of those things, refine what we're doing for the right reasons, and build new repetitive patterns and habits. Because like you mentioned, you call it jackassery. It is stuck in poverty mentality. The mentality is all wrong. They can't seem to have a success mentality because they're so used to having the failure mentality. And that's got to be repetitively trained out of a person.
Now, Dr. Sherwood, with limited time we have, my family and I will be headed out of town here for we'll call it an adventure, a multiple country adventure. And so before we head out, I want to make sure we interview on today's show and let you impart your wisdom on the people. So I'm going to pull up your website here so everybody out there who's tuning in can learn more about you. They can choose to connect with you or your team there. But I will say this as I pull it up. I know in my life, people in my own life that I know very well who've reached out to you. And I know you would not define it this way, but I'm going to, and then you can rebuke me. But people I know who said, look, I'm north of 50 and I want to lose more than 50 pounds. I know people in my life who've said, I'm over 50 years old and I want to lose more than 50 pounds. And I know of two people in particular that have lost over 50 pounds after the age of 50. Now, I know people under the age of 20 who wanted to lose 20 pounds who've also done that with you. So I've seen people optimize their health, and I know you focus on the body fat percentage and the things that matter. But I just want you to know how us common people, how they've described it, how these people have described it to me. They've said, look, I'm over the age of 50. I need to lose 50 pounds, and they are beyond happy with the results. I know people who are under the age of 20 who said, look, I'm not even 20 years old. I want to lose 20 pounds, and you've helped them too. So let's talk about the process. If somebody goes to Sherwood.tv, what's the best way for people to connect at Sherwood.tv, sir?
Well, they're going to click on that button right there, book a consultation. And there's two ways that can do that. We have a free webinar, which is the second Tuesday of every single month. And it's free. One of your big repetitive good habits you do is you say things 3 or 4 times during a podcast. This is a free webinar, free. And people can go there for, did I say free? Yes, I said free. And then we present what we do and they get to ask questions. That's one way. And if they want to just fast forward to the consult, we'll meet with them and we talk to them. I want to hear the story, who they are, where they are, how they are, and where they want to go. And then we set a tone, we set the goal, we refine that goal. And just like you talked about in today's show, we work backwards with action steps from the goal backwards to just make sure they get to that action, that achievable, refined goal. And I want them to get to there and beyond for the rest of their days.
Folks, if you're learning today and you've learned anything at all, check out Sherwood.tv, Sherwood.tv. Dr. Sherwood, I won't be on the show with you next week, but we'll rejoin you here in a couple weeks. I really do appreciate your time and your energy. Again, folks, that's Sherwood.tv. And folks, if you're looking for a doctor who can rip a phone book in half with his bare hands, check out Sherwood.tv. Talk to you soon, sir.
All right. See you, Matt.
Bye-bye. Are you looking to start or grow a super successful business? Join Eric Trump, the New York Times bestselling author of The Carnivore Diet, Sean Baker. Join hundreds of real business owner client success stories at the highest rated business conference in America. Join Mel K, Julie Green, Amanda Grace, Pastor Dave Scarlett, and myself in Tulsa, Oklahoma, November 5th and 6th. Attend the most real, the most authentic, the highest rated, and most reviewed Ultimate Business Growth Workshop. During this 2-day interactive business workshop, you're going to learn everything you need to know to make your business grow. Learn how to generate more sales. Learn how to produce additional high-quality inbound leads. Learn how to create repeatable systems. Learn how to build a successful business. And learn how to do it now. If you've ever wanted to learn how to start and grow a super successful company, this is the event for you. At our 2-day interactive business workshop, we will teach you specifically every step that you need to take to start and grow a super successful company. We will teach you specifically how to get to the top of the Google search engine results, how to dominate artificial intelligence search results, how to market via social media, how to generate more leads, and how to get in front of your ideal and likely buyers. We're going to teach you the step-by-step processes that you need to learn in order to hire, inspire, train, and retain high-quality employees and teammates. We're going to teach you specifically what you need to learn to manage a team of people. We're going to teach you how to manage your finances, how to look at the numbers, and to figure out the specific steps that you need to take to create a time freedom and financial freedom producing business. At the Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business workshop, we've been teaching entrepreneurs everything they need to know to start and grow a successful company since 2005. In fact, at our 2-day interactive business workshops, we're going to teach you marketing, systems and scaling, human resources, accounting, social media marketing, branding, search engine optimization, sales training, financial management, and so much more. You can learn more and request tickets today simply by going to thrivetimeshow.com. Yes, you can request tickets today simply by going to thrivetimeshow.com. That's the website. Join Eric Trump, myself, and Team America live and in person at the Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business workshop, November 5th and 6th in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
My name is Kevin Thomas, and the name of our company is MultiClean. We are a commercial janitorial service, and we serve the entire state of Oklahoma and Kansas and soon to be Arkansas. We have probably grown probably 5 times. We've added, I think when we first started with you, we had 60 to 65 employees. And now we have a little over 300 employees. Before we got involved with Thrivetime, we didn't really have any systems or processes in place. So I've probably been to, in 6-7 years, I've probably been to 12 to 13 business conferences. And amazingly, each time I go, I learn something new, and I'm so excited to bring it back and show the team about marketing and how to implement.
Okay, Aaron Antis, November 5th and 6th. Guess who's coming back to Tulsa? I will give you a hint. His first name is Eric, and his last name is Trump. Whoa. And his father is the 47th president of these United States. Yes, Eric Trump is joining us once again here September 25th and 26th in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the 2-day interactive Thrivetime Show Business Growth Workshop. But Eric Trump is bringing friends. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Grace will be in the place. Dr. Stella Emanuel will be here in T-Town in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Julie Green will be on the scene. Mel K will be here to say hey. Dave Scarlett from the His Glory team will be here. It's going to be a blasty blast right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you want to start or grow a super successful company, if you want to make your wallet great again or make your wallet great for the first time, if you want to learn marketing, systems, scaling, human resources, accounting, social media, branding, search engine optimization, sales training, financial management, and more, get your tickets right now at thrivetimeshow.com. Once again, that's thrivetimeshow.com.
Hey, I'm Ryan Wimpy. I'm originally from Tulsa, born and raised here. I've definitely learned a lot about life design and making sure the business serves you. The linear workflow for us and getting everything out on paper and documented is really important. Like we have workflows that are kind of all over the place, so having linear workflow and seeing that mapped out on multiple different boards is pretty awesome. That's really helpful for me. The atmosphere here is awesome. I definitely just stared at the walls, figuring out how to make my facility look like this place. This place rocks. It's invigorating. The walls are super, it's just very cool. The atmosphere is cool. The people are nice. It's a pretty cool place to be. Very good learning atmosphere. I literally want to model it and steal everything that's here at this facility and basically create it just on our business side. Play is hilarious. I literally laughed so hard that I started having tears yesterday. And we've been learning a lot, which, you know, we've been sitting here, we've been learning a lot, and so the humor definitely helps. It breaks it up. But the content is awesome, off the charts, and it's very interactive. You can raise your hand. It's not like you're just listening to the professor speak, you know. The wizard teaches, but the wizard interacts and he takes questions, so that's awesome. If you're not attending the conference, you're missing about 3/4 to half of your life. You're definitely, it's probably worth a couple $1,000s. So you're missing the thought process of someone that's already started like 9 profitable businesses. So not only is it a lot of good information, but just getting in the thought.
Clay Clark is here somewhere. Where's my buddy Clay? Clay's the greatest. I met his goats today. I met his dogs. I met his chickens. I saw his compound. He's like the greatest guy.
I ran from his goats, his chickens, his dogs.
So this guy's like the greatest marketer you've ever seen, right? His entire life, Clay Clark, his entire life is marketing.
Well, people don't know this, but the Trump organization has thousands of employees. There's not 50 employees. The Trump organization, again, most people don't know this, but the Trump organization has thousands of employees. And while Donald J. Trump was the 45th president of these United States, he needed a competent man to run and execute his business plans. Showtime! So the man that runs the Trump organization for Donald J. Trump, as he was the 45th president of the United States and now the 47th president of the United States, is Eric Trump. And so Eric Trump is here to talk about time management, promoting from within, marketing, branding, quality control, sales systems, workflow design, workflow mapping, how to build. I mean, everything that you see, the Trump hotels, the Trump golf courses, all their products, the man who manages billions of dollars of real estate and thousands of employees is here to teach us how to do it.
You are talking about one of the greatest brands on the planet from a business standpoint.
Right.
I mean, who else has been able to create a brand like the Trump brand? I mean, look at it. And this is the man behind the business for the last, pretty much since 2015. He's been the man behind it. So you're talking, we're into 9 going into 10 years of him running it, and we get to tap into that knowledge. That's going to be amazing.
Now, think about this for a second.
But that Clay Clark, man, he is one character.
It's a good word for him, character. Yeah, that is it.
Good, driven, smart. And I've never met a guy who was so hyper all the time. He's doing so much good. And then I met his mother, and she just says, she just lets him be Clay Clark. I mean, so he's endorsed by his mother, and he's doing magnificent work. So it was great meeting you out there and all the people that he surrounds himself with. Clay Clark starts his days at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, he's a machine. He's a machine.
But I have problems with my company starting at 9 o'clock. Yes, hundreds of people showing up at 5 a.m. in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Man, he's a leader of a leader. He's a fantastic young man.
No, he is.
The lineup continues to grow, and this is how we do our tickets here at the Thrivetime Show. If you want to get a VIP ticket, you can absolutely do it. It's $500 for a VIP ticket. We've always done it that way. Now, if you want to take a general admission ticket, it's $250 or whatever price you want to pay. And the reason why I do that, and the reason why we do that, is because we want to make our events affordable for everybody. I grew up without money. I totally understand what it's like to be in a tight spot. So if you want to attend, it's $250 or whatever price you want to pay. That's how I do it. And it's $500 for a VIP ticket. Now, we only have limited seating here. With the most people we've ever had in this building was for the Jim Brewer presentation. Jim Brewer came here, the legendary comedian Jim Brewer came to Tulsa, and we had
718 people. 718 people.
And I thought to myself, there's no more room. I felt kind of bad that a couple people had VIP seats in the men's restroom. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. But I thought, you know what, we should probably add on. So again, if you want to get tickets for this event, all you have to do is go to thrivetimeshow.com. Go to thrivetimeshow.com. When you go to thrivetimeshow.com, you'll go there, you'll request a ticket, boom. Or if you want to text me, if you want a little bit faster service, you say, I want you to call me right now. Just text my number. It's my cell phone number, my personal cell phone number. We'll keep that private between you, me, everybody. We'll keep that private. And anybody. Don't share that with anybody except for everybody. That's my private cell phone number. It's 918-851-0102. 918-851-0102. I know we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people that attend these conferences, and so to be bilingually sensitive, my cell phone number is 918-851-0102.
That is not actually bilingual. That's just saying Juan for a one. It's not the same thing.
I think you're attacking me. Now, let's talk about this. Now, what kind of stuff will you learn at the Thrivetime Show workshop? So, Aaron, you've been to many of these over the past 7-8 years. So let's talk about it. I'll tee up the thing, and then you tell me what you're going to learn here, okay?
Okay.
You're going to learn marketing and branding. What are we going to learn about marketing and branding?
Oh, yeah. We're going to dive into, so many people say, I got to get my brand known out there, like the Trump brand, right? You want to get that brand out there. It's like, how do I actually make people know what my business is and make it a household name? You're going to learn some intricacies of how you can do that.
You're going to learn sales. So many people struggle to sell something. This just in, your business will go to hell if you can't sell. So we're going to teach you sales. We're going to teach you search engine optimization, how to come up top in the search engine results. We're going to teach you how to manage people. Aaron, you have managed, no exaggeration, hundreds of people throughout your career and thousands of contractors. And most people struggle with managing people. Why does everybody have to learn how to manage people?
Well, because first of all, you either have great people or you have people who suck. And so it can be a challenge, learning how to work with a large group of people and get everybody pulling in the same direction can be a challenge. But if you have the right systems, you have the right processes, and you're really good at selecting great ones, and we have a process we teach about how to find great people. When you start with the people who have a great attitude, they're teachable, they're driven, all of those things, then, you can get those people all pulling in the same direction.
So we're going to teach you branding, marketing, sales, search engine optimization. We're going to teach you accounting. We're going to teach you personal finance, how to manage your finance. We're going to teach you time management. How do you manage your time? How do you get more done during a typical day? How do you build an organization if you're not organized? How do you do organization? How do you build an org chart? Everything that you need to know to start and grow a business will be taught during this 2-day interactive business workshop. Now, let me tell you how the format is set up here. And again, folks, this is a 2-day interactive 15. Think about this, folks. It's 2 days. Each day it starts at 7 a.m. and it goes until 5 p.m. So from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 2 days. It's a 2-day interactive workshop. The way we do it is we do a 30-minute teaching session, and then we break for 15 minutes for a question and answer session. So, Aaron, what kind of great stuff happens during that 15-minute question and answer session after every teaching session?
I actually think it's the best part about the workshops, because here's what happens. I've been to lots of these things over the years. I've paid many thousands of dollars to go to them. And you go in there and they talk in vague generalities, and they're constantly upselling you for something, trying to get you to buy this thing or that thing or this program or this membership. And you leave not getting your very specific questions answered about your business or your employees or what you're doing on your marketing. And what's awesome about this is we literally answer every single question that any person asks, and it's very specific to what your business is.
And what we do is we allow you as the attendee to write your questions on the whiteboard.
Yep.
And then we literally, as you mentioned, we answer every single question on the whiteboard. And then we take a 15-minute break to stretch and to make it entertaining when you're stretching. This is a true story. When you get up and stretch, you'll be greeted by mariachis.
Sure.
There's going to probably be alpaca here, llamas, helicopter rides, a coffee bar, a snow cone. There's just...
You had a crocodile one time. That was pretty interesting.
I should write that down and actually do that.
Sorry for that one guy that we lost.
The crocodile, we duct taped its face so that we duct taped.
No, it was a baby crocodile.
And it was duct tape.
Yeah, duct tape around the mouth so it didn't bite anybody. But it was really cool passing that thing around and
I should do that. We have a small petting zoo that will be assembled. It's going to be great. And then you're in the company of hundreds of entrepreneurs. So there's not a lot of people in America today. In fact, there's less than 10 million people today, according to U.S. Debt Clock, that identify as being self-employed. So if you have a country with 350 million people, that means you have less than 3% of our population that's even self-employed. Yeah. So you only have 3 out of every 100 people in America that are self-employed to begin with. And when Inc. magazine reports that 96% of businesses fail by default, You have a 1 out of 1,000 chance of succeeding in the game of business. But yet the average client that you and I work with, we can typically double this. And this is no hyperbole, no exaggeration. And I have thousands of testimonials to back this up. We have thousands of testimonials to back it up. But when you work with a home builder, when I work with a business owner, we can typically double the size of the company within 24 months.
Yeah.
Double. And you say double? Yeah, there's businesses that we have tripled. There's businesses we've grown 8x. There's so many examples you can see at thrivetimeshow.com. But again, this is the most interactive, best business workshop on the planet. This is objectively the highest rated and most reviewed business workshop on the planet.
I was looking to learn how to take my business, like they've said today, from being very successful to being systematic. I've got a very successful practice in 3 different cities, make good money. Just want to take it to the next level with systems and processes to where I can drive my cars more.
Paul Hood.
I have been a CPA for 33 years.
And what kind of growth have you and your great team had here over the past, let's say, 5-6 years?
For the last 5, when I met you 5 years ago, we were doing 3 million. This year we'll do 24 million.
Whoa. And you say, Clay, I'm not going to get a ticket unless you give me more. Okay, fine. We're going to serve you the same meal both days. True story. We cater in the food, and because
simple.
I keep it simple. I literally bring in the same food both days for lunch. It's Ted Escondido's, an incredible Mexican restaurant. That's going to happen. And someone says, I want more. This is not enough.
Give me more.
Okay. I'm not going to mention their names right now because I'm working on it behind the scenes here. But we've got one guy who's given me a verbal to be here. And this is a guy who's one of the wealthiest people in Oklahoma. And nobody really knows who he is because he's built systems that are very utilitarian, that offer a lot of value. He's made a lot of money in the, it's where you rent. It's short term. It's where you're renting storage spaces. He's a storage space guy. He owns the. What do you call that? The rental,
a storage space.
Storage units.
Yeah.
This guy owns storage units. He owns railroad cars. He owns a lot of assets that make money on a daily basis, but they're not like customer facing. Most people don't know who owns the mini storage facility, or most people don't know who owns the warehouse that's passively making money. Most people don't know who owns the railroad cars, but this guy, he's given me a verbal that he will be here, and we just continue to add more and more success stories. So if you're out there today and you want to change your life, you want to give yourself an incredible gift, you want a life-changing experience, you want to learn how to start and grow a company, go to thrivetimeshow.com. Go there right now, thrivetimeshow.com. Request a ticket for the 2-day interactive event.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Thomas Cristen, owner and founder of Full Package Media in Dallas, Texas. I've been a coaching client with Clay Clark since the beginning of our business. We started about a year ago, August of last year. I had no clients, no idea what we were doing, no clue really what was going on. And now we've grown to where we've got 6 photographers, we've got office space here. I have an admin, sales person that works for us full time, developing an online system, and a lot of that growth we attribute to Clay helping us. And there's so many things that, his stuff is not, revolutionary. It's not this crazy walk on hot coals and all this stuff. It's just real stuff.
It's going to be a blasty blast. There's no upsells. Aaron, I could not be more excited about this event.
I think it is incredible. And there's somebody out there right now, you're watching and you're like, but I already signed up for this incredible other program called Smoke Your Way to Thin. I think that's going to change your life. I promise you, this will be 10 times better than that. Whoa.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
Don't do the Smoke Your Way to Thin conference. That is, I've tried it. Don't do it.
Yeah, chain smoking is not a viable. It is life-changing. It is life-changing. If you become a chain smoker, it is life-changing.
Not the best weight loss program, though.
Right, really. So if you're looking to have life-changing results in a way that won't cause you to have a stoma, get your tickets at thrivetimeshow.com. Again, that's Aaron Antis. I'm Clay Clark, and reminding you and inviting you to come out to the 2-day interactive Thrivetime Show workshop right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I promise you, it will be a life-changing experience. We can't wait to see you right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Whoa. What kind of growth have you had since you and I have been working together over these past few years?
3.45 million. I got those stats before I got on here.
So you've grown by 3.45 million.
Yeah, 3,450,000.
Would that be like if you took the combined revenue, maybe doubled it? Have we gone up by
about almost 3, not quite.
Whoa.